Thank you very much for watching this video. Before we begin, I wanted to include a disclaimer, as I include in my about section as well as in the description of this video. All of my readings are for entertainment purposes only. They are never, ever meant to diagnose, treat, or otherwise have any influence upon your own medical issues or situations that you may have. I always encourage everyone to make their own sound decisions, including legal matters, financial matters, and every other matter in your own life. These are for entertainment purposes only. As these are general tea leaf readings, again, it makes sense, therefore, that some of this information will resonate with you and some of it may not. You may find that some applies and some doesn't. That is completely normal and to be expected, as these are general tea leaf readings. So again, take what you will and leave what you don't, and simply enjoy your reading and hope that you find it informative and insightful. Thank you. Hello, my name is Sarah, and thank you so much once again for joining me this week. This is a general tea leaf reading for the week of October 3rd, 2022. Let's look and see what the universe wants us to know this week. By looking at these tea leaves, we can very clearly see two things immediately. One is that there is a very clear event or situation taking place this week. And secondly, there are really no other tea leaves around the sides of the cup. It is essentially clear. When I see a form of this layout, it always means to me, as I have said in previous tea leaf readings as well on this channel, that we have no other distractions this week. In other words, we have nothing else to distract us. We are able to focus on whatever we need to focus on and not be distracted by anything else. Use this time that you have this week to really complete things. This message also came up last week on this channel. At the risk of sounding like I'm telling you what to do, which I am not telling you what to do, however, based on what I am seeing and from my own previous experience, I would totally say use your free time to complete things. Anything that you have not yet completed that you have been maybe putting off, you've been procrastinating or not been able to get around to, I can completely say that is true for myself as well. And I would say this message is very evident and very strong. I just turn the cup around for a different angle. You can see that there are no tea leaves. This is actually quite rare on this channel. If you watch any of the previous tea leaf readings for any other week, you can see that there are always tea leaves around the sides of the cup. So let's begin by looking at this main event or situation. Immediately, you can very clearly see this week starts off very, very quickly. All of these tea leaves and groupings here comprise this one main event or situation. Let's start by looking at this grouping here. What the tea leaves are showing is that there is an opportunity, there is a new idea, a new concept that has not yet happened, but it is being thought about or discussed or contemplated in some way, shape, or form. Immediately after that takes place, we see this grouping is comprised of many tea leaves which are very tightly grouped. Whenever I see groupings such as this, it always very clearly means to me that there are things happening that we are just not made privy to. So you can say that it also means that there is a surprise. Surprises are involved in this situation. There is a person, place, or thing with the letters V and or L involved and the letter C. Multiple documents, helpful individual, wisdom, learning, education of some sort. Reassurance is very clearly being indicated. So whatever the situation is, if you do have some hesitancy regarding it, this is saying not to worry. Everything is going to be okay. You may come to that realization maybe near the end of this scenario. This reassurance very likely related to communications. You could even say communication regarding a document. Also, communication regarding education, writing of some kind. When the situation concludes, there's likely some kind of minor discussions or communication. Now let's proceed to this grouping. However, before I do, just wanted to mention that there is a pattern here of a form of a square. I mentioned before that for me, squares mean stability. In this scenario, there is some kind of unconventional stability that is involved as the week unfolds. I would say likely taking place maybe on Tuesday to Thursday. That is related to all of the other events being presented here. In regards to this grouping here specifically, we do have some surprises. There are pieces of information that we are just not being made privy to as yet. This does involve partnerships, so working with other people. Likely 3 individuals. Also, I'm going to point out, I don't know if you can see it, however, there is a lovely dog here. As I have mentioned in previous videos, for myself, dogs represent unconditional love, support, loyalty, companionship, protection as well. Those qualities and or characteristics are very much involved in property of some kind. If so, there may be a move that you are contemplating and it would be outside of your immediate area. If so, it does look favorable from what I'm seeing here. There is a nurturing aspect as well. It appears that there may be documents involved, which would make sense if you are thinking of moving. And specifically, one of them is related to some kind of project that you are thinking of embarking on or taking on. And if so, it does also look favorable. There are 2 letters present, W and C. But this would be a person, place, or thing involved. Likely this is related to a woman who was involved in this situation. Education appears to be a theme for us all this week. Clearly you can see an open book here. That is one symbol for myself that does represent education or some kind of knowledge or wisdom or learning and or writing. This may be related to the education that was presented in this grouping here. If so, it does seem to become apparent or more significant or more finalized or clarified as the days progress. I would say Wednesday to Thursday. There is definitely a Cancerian connection. The qualities of nurturing, the house, the home, intuition, healing are involved in this education. Again, we have the letter L that's being presented, which you can see here. So a person, place, or thing with that letter in their name. There may be a trip that you are contemplating, likely 2 trips, very short, or it's one trip that has 2 parts to it. This would be something that is of a non-significant nature. So it would be something very short, maybe just a few days away, and it's not something that has a great deal of meaning. For example, you may be thinking of going to a concert, and that would be less significant to me anyway than if you're going on an ancestral pilgrimage to your homeland, for example. So take that as you will. It does provide some sense of nurturing and unconventional stability. It provides stability in a couple of different ways, this trip does. And there is a new opportunity that is associated with it. It still may be in the beginning stages or phases. However, it does look to be very promising, very good. It's very positive. And the theme of receiving good things is also very apparent with this. There may be air travel involved or someone who is an air sign. There also may be some form of communication that comes to us from an electronic source, such as email, text message, phone call, social media, things of that nature. Let's move a little bit further down. Let's look at this grouping here. Some form of communication from an electronic source that has, yet again, qualities and characteristics of nurturing, healing the house and home. There is a Cancerian connection. This may very well be someone who is that sign, but it can also mean the qualities of that sign. Also, there is some discussion regarding this, some kind of conversation, deliberation, thinking, talking. There is some communication regarding this individual scenario. It all looks to be fairly minor, however, at the same time, it is significant. The situation may be rather small, however, there is a lot of communication regarding it. Even though it's small, it is significant in its own right. Now let's move our attention to this grouping. So we would be looking at like Thursday or maybe even Friday. Clearly, we have 3 individual aspects involved. This scenario is seemingly unrelated, however, it is related to the unconventional stability that I mentioned at the beginning of this reading. There is a new beginning that is associated with this, very much like what I just mentioned a few moments ago. There is this new beginning, this new opportunity. It is present. It's just not fully formed yet and still in the clarification stage. Here we have 3 documents. There may possibly be one that is related to travel of some kind. So if you are traveling, obviously there would be some form of documents likely involved in some way, shape, or form. There are 2 involved, which are more significant than the third one. These 2 do take place before the third one does. It's also possible education may be involved. However, I don't want to say that as a definitive statement because it looks to me to be more of simply documents and possibly travel. There may be a house or property connection as well. If you are contemplating property, I would say that this is likely, again, not, as has come up in previous week's videos, likely not the best time or situation or scenario to be pursuing that, or at least this one property specifically. However, I'm not telling you what to do. Just saying what I'm seeing. There is a helpful individual, though, which you can see as this third document here also appears to be someone holding out their hands. So there is a helpful individual involved that is related to the third document, and that does come about after the other 2 have taken place. So now we are moving into maybe Friday night and into the weekend and heading into next week. So let's take a look at this. I am genuinely curious and wondering what this education connection is. As you can clearly tell by now, it has come up a few times in this one teacup. Yet again, we have a document, a scroll of some kind being presented here. This is also a book, so some kind of wisdom, learning, and or education, likely some kind of learning. There's some kind of knowledge which we are acquiring heading into this weekend and into next week. This may be some kind of course, whether that's us teaching it or taking it. It may be something as simple as taking a free online course to something more significant than that. However, it is showing up here, and we keep seeing education. So I would definitely say this is a great week to look into, to possibly take this as you will, obviously, of course, look into taking some kind of education, some kind of course. If not, then this is persistent throughout all of this. There's some kind of greater knowledge that we are acquiring, that we are receiving, that we're being given throughout this entire scenario. It's almost like we're being drip fed pieces and parts of information all week in different ways. Not consistent. It's never consistent. It's in different kinds and different ways, and from maybe from different people, but different scenarios, however, or situations. However, it is consistent throughout this entire event or situation throughout this week. So again, I'm very curious what this would be. If you feel like sharing, please drop your comment in the comment section below. I would love to hear what this would mean for you, if of course you would like to share. You're also welcome to email me too, in case you don't want to post it publicly. We also have a person, place, or thing with the letter L involved that could very well be related to this education. We can see this L here in the base. Now, turning the cup back again this way, we can see that is also the number 7, which I'm not a numerologist. However, it is a number that is related to like mysticism and the source creator and greater learning, which in a way makes complete sense considering all of the indications representing knowledge and greater learning being shown throughout this tea leaf reading. I just moved the cup to take a look at it, and that open book just fell. So it's okay. It still is completely valid. It just dried and it just fell. So in case you're looking at this and you think it's changed slightly, it's because it has. So moving on. Looking at the base, we can very clearly see that there is like a 50-50 divide into this weekend heading into next week in terms of activity. So action, momentum, things are definitely taking place. There's certainly a lot happening behind the scenes that we are just not being made privy to. This seems to be a theme for every single week so far. However, we do have enough free time, as shown by all the clear space here, that we are going to be able to focus on everything that we need to focus on and not have too many distractions. We will have some rest time, we will have some downtime, but we are also going to be asked or maybe even required to actually put out a lot of energy and exert a lot of action and momentum to complete other things. We're going to be quite busy, in other words. However, this is showing that it's not going to be overwhelming. We're going to be able to focus on what we need to focus on, but just not be overly distracted. Just simply pace yourselves. Make sure that you're doing all your self-care routines and get enough rest and things along those lines. Now, we absolutely have a great deal happening, so here we go. Again, here is an open book. Some form of wisdom, knowledge, greater learning that is being presented. Here we have a scroll and or a map of some kind. There may be some kind of travel which you're contemplating that has a Leo connection, someone who is potentially Leo. That is late July to late August, astrologically, so someone likely who is that sign. We also have abundance and prosperity that is beginning to take form. That involves a number 3, possibly. For me, that's like a number of collaborations. That's just one meaning that I have for the number 3. Some kind of new beginning. It may seem small, however, it does result in a fair amount of abundance represented by this tree. This abundance also has a document involved, so some kind of documentation that has the number 3 involved. So again, that can simply be collaborations and or something else entirely. Again, we have the qualities of healing and nurturing. We have a helpful individual shown here. This may be representing angelic help because this individual does seem to have a wing behind them. Take that as you will. You may find yourself wanting to ask or call upon your angels for extra help. Or this could simply be saying that, yes, we do have divine help with us, which, as I mentioned before, it's always nice to hear that. I am of the firm opinion and belief and awareness that we do always have divine help. However, there is the law of free will involved as well, so sometimes we do have to ask for that help in order to receive it because they sort of seem to operate on consent, at least partially anyway. So you may want to ask for extra angelic help this weekend heading into next week. Another way that you can read this is that, yes, we do have angelic help involved, which is always lovely and so amazing. This overall scenario does involve happiness for sure. We do have a happy face here. There's an eye here, an eye here, a nose here, and a happy face. There's a smile there. So whatever is happening here, it's very positive. Also, we have abundance that's coming in, and it looks to be fairly significant. There's two aspects involved with that. Back to the angelic help for a second. This is in regards to someone who has, like I said for last week's tea leaf reading, the letter T in their name. You can very clearly see that this individual is standing on a letter T. Now, this angelic help can also definitely be referencing the characteristics of someone who is angelic, who is very much a protector. This angel is very large, appears to be quite big here, standing on a letter T. So someone who has that letter in their name, someone who is a very large, imposing authority, but in a good way, authority figure who is very much a protector and wants the best for everyone involved. This may not be obvious to everyone, however, it is obvious to some. I've seen images similar to this before. It just simply means perspective as far as I'm concerned. So it's obvious to some of us, not obvious to others. However, there's definitely someone involved, events or situations in some way, shape, or form who has that letter in their name. It's just not obvious to everyone immediately, that's all. But whomever this is regarding, I would say that we are in excellent hands. They're very much a guardian, very much a protector. They have a very shrewd mind, very quick-witted, and highly analytical. They're very, very, very positive. And they're very happy to go to battle if and whenever needed. Righteously. Moving on, we have a property here, upside down house. So if you're thinking of moving, I would say, based on what I'm seeing, keep contemplating it if you wish to. However, it may not be the best time to move ahead with that move, but keep looking, absolutely. And it does look good. It looks like it's going to eventually come to fruition. It's just not quite ready yet, but it's definitely on the way. So I'd totally say that if this is the case for you, based on what I'm seeing, you're absolutely on the right track. If I was reading for you, that's exactly what I would say. There is a helpful individual regarding this, and they do have this. I know this may sound odd, and I know what I'm going to say has also come up in a previous week's video, I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. This individual has a different kind of hairstyle. It's unique. Moving along to this grouping, we have a person, place, or thing with a letter M. The letter M is shown in slightly different variations 3 different times, as well as opportunities. One which is very much still being contemplated at this time, heading into next week, as well as an opportunity that is very clearly formed and is present. Generally, looking at this grouping here, we have multiple partnerships working with multiple people. Here we have a clearly defined balance between new beginnings as well as completions. The number 3, the letter E, and feeling uninhibited and going for exactly what it is, whatever it is that we want to have. When we move into this grouping here, we are essentially going to be having some surprises. I cannot see a lot of what is happening because the tea leaves are very tightly grouped and over top of each other. They are layered. So, in other words, we're not supposed to know a few things heading into next week. However, there is definitely communication coming in. This may even be about the house and your home or family. And again, the letter W. We certainly have love and harmoniousness. There is a version of a heart here. And all indications are showing that we are definitely in for a time of abundance. This abundance is beautifully growing and it's still being clarified and defined. And all indications are showing that we are definitely in for a time of abundance. This abundance is beautifully growing and it's still being clarified and defined. However, it is beginning to take shape. So it looks like this weekend heading into next week is going to be very good, very positive, very busy, and exciting. So I'm going to leave it there for now. Thank you so much once again for watching this video. I do hope that you found it to be interesting and informative and maybe even a little bit insightful and inspiring. If so, please do consider giving my channel a subscribe. I really do appreciate it. Maybe even like this video and ring that bell for future updates. Thank you so much again, and I do look forward to seeing you next week here on this channel. I hope that you have an amazing week, an amazing weekend, and an even better next week. Take care.